I always thought that making music was going to be something that was like my own little private oasis. I didn't think it was something that would take me here. I knew it was something that I would do for the rest of my life always, but I never thought that it would be like this.
The great outdoors.
The great outdoors. I feel like we're in England.
Yeah, I know. It looks like England, even though we're in the middle of California.
Yes.
It's beautiful. I mean, people say that America's like big sky country, don't they? And I get that. When you come somewhere like here, I don't know, it just calms you.
It does. I feel like being in nature for me is like, it just leaves a lot of space for thought. Like that's kind of why I listen to ambient music as well, just because it's like this bath that's quite still, and then you have space to think and just kind of like really stew in things. I come here a lot.
Do you listen to ambient music when you walk here, or is the nature your ambient music?
The nature is my ambient music, or I'll put in a podcast.
Do you?
Or I just listen to demos and just like really try and like sit with them completely outside of the context of like the studio or the car or the city.
Yeah.
I feel like I can just get like a clarity that you can't really get in the city. Like for me, especially being in California and it being like a completely different landscape, I think that's made me a lot more curious about going outside, going up to Big Bear, going to the desert, like
so you've done all
road
that?
Trips. Yeah.
Have you composed anything up here? Because this is somewhere where you've gone quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't composed anything up here, but I've definitely spent a lot of time here just figuring out the music and the treatment of the song, because for Collapse and Sunbeams it was very much like how it was made in the moment is how you hear it. But for this record I really had to learn patience and just like give the songs time to reveal themselves to me. It wasn't as simple as like being like piano, drums, okay, that's how it is. There were moments where I was like, okay, this needs to be something beyond what it is, and I just have to go for walks and just let it come to me.
Quite scary.
Scary.
To just let the mood and the songs take you to that place rather than you be driving them.
Yeah, scary but necessary. Like I feel like I have a lot of inner urgency in general and restlessness, and I kind of learned that some things do just take time. And there was a lot of kind of frustration and doubt that came with that, because you're like, okay, I'm just allowing the universe to show me what this is supposed to be, and there's nothing I can really do to speed up that process, so you're just kind of sitting there waiting.
Did you like what the universe showed you?
I did. I liked it quite a lot.
I like this record a lot.
Thank you.
Let's take a little walk up here.
Let's do it. I love an escape though. I feel like even when I am in a city, I'm often just like going at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And like working furiously every day all the time, so I have to find a place where I can just like a little private glade where I can just be and not have to think about anything and like read, and I can be there for 15 minutes before it all starts again.
Do you find it easy to make friends in a new place? I think sometimes that's the thing that holds people back.
I love it.
Do you?
I love a chat. Yeah, no, I wasn't worried about that. I just think it's like when I come to a new place, the most interesting thing about it is the people to me, and like meeting people with new stories and.
Well, you're a great people watcher. I mean, there were so many songs on Collapsed that were about people watching, and that thing of, right, I'm going to go to a cafe, I'm going to put my notepad and pen in front of me, I'm going to get a coffee, and I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that just came from like an intense curiosity about people that I've always had ever since I was a kid. Like there are so many different things that I want to do creatively, whether that's acting or scoring a movie or like more things in the world of literature, and like there's such a richness here. I feel like you just bump into people and have these random accidents.
Do you have a crazy LA story like that?
My second show in LA at the Echoplex, someone's like, there's this guy and he's got like a Ninja Turtle backpack on and he really wants to say hello. And I was like, interesting. And it's just like Thundercat there, and I'm like, oh wow, hey. And then he's like, do you want to go for a drive? And we just like drove around LA like pretty much all night, just eating Impossible Burgers.
That's a very LA thing to do. I don't feel like that would happen in the UK quite as easily as it does here. I've heard other stories where people have just been invited into cars with musicians who they love, and just you drive for 2 hours and you see what happens.
And I love, honestly, I feel like there's something about being in the car with someone and journeying, but it's also kind of aimless.
Yeah.
And like we just had such lovely conversations. And
those are my favourite types of drives, where you just get in and you don't have to think about where you're going. I like being the passenger in those situations.
I like being the driver.
Do you?
I don't like sitting in passenger.
Do you drive in LA?
Yeah.
This view.
Isn't it sick?
Yeah.
I
mad.
love it.
It never ends.
I know. Yeah, the nature here is pretty special.
Just the space here is special. I heard that you met Tyler at Coachella.
Oh yeah, I did.
Big. That's big. For you. I mean, that's huge, isn't it?
I can't explain how special that moment was for me. Like, I think there's a generation of like young black people who were creating things that kind of sat outside of the mold of what was expected. And Odd Future and that group of people were such a beacon. And I feel like his artistry, his ability to kind of go into the world of fashion and film and comedy and just be this like restless creative force. Like it was an amazing moment for sure.
Do you get giddy when you meet your heroes?
Yes. Just because of my love of music being at the forefront of everything still, I still feel completely like a fan when I meet anyone.
Yeah.
I feel like I would get really excited over like maybe people who are a little bit more niche, who just like meant a lot to me.
Tyler just does both worlds though, doesn't he? Because he is niche, but at the same time, he is in terms of some of the stuff that he does.
Okay.
But he brings it into the mainstream.
I would agree. It took a long time for him to kind of build his way into the world of the mainstream. For a long time, he was very much on the fringes of things. And I think that he taught a generation of people that you can just do your own thing. And maybe for a long time, people aren't going to get it. But eventually, when they do, you become like a figurehead of something else and you've kind of created your own table.
When you meet people like Phoebe, who's on the new record, and you actually get in a studio with them and you collaborate with them, or Clara or somebody like that, where you kind of came up at the same time, do you have a feeling with people like that where you are on a level with them and you're kind of like, yeah, these are my peers? Or is it still a fandom thing there as well?
I think that when I become friends with someone, I definitely then see them as a friend, but I still like have massive admiration for their work. Being able to like talk to people who I've looked up to for a while musically, like on the level of like friendship and advice, and obviously this experience that I'm having like as a human being is very particular. So building a community around myself has been special, but I'm still a fan.
It is particular, and it's quite unique, your experience, and you know, you have this new project which is with us now. Where was your head at when you came to making the new album?
Making this record was almost the polar opposite to making the first one, in terms of me having to create it in like 1 to 2 week little pools of time in between tours. Like 120 plus shows last year, and I somehow still managed to make a record. And I think when I was making Collapse in Sunbeams, a lot of it was about the storytelling and the coming of age stories and the observation, because I was almost craving that sense of like escape. So I was thinking about the stories and the people and the energy of before. And then when I was making this second record, there was such a sense of turbulence and being highly perceived and very much out in the world that I very much went inward. And I very much wanted to just like look myself in the eyes and like process slowly and understand what I was healing from, and just write from the perspective of me.
So what did you see when you actually did that? You know, you kind of get in front of a mirror and you do shut the rest of the world out, and you're facing not your demons but your innermost thoughts. Did you like what you were confronted with, or was it something that kind of scared you a little bit?
I think it is scary, because I think that the way we move through life, you rarely actually get a second to stop and sit with yourself. Like, I was thinking about myself, and I was thinking about the friendships that I had made and the curiosity that I had about the world and love and like my sensitivity, and how like I found myself to be quite like a perceptive person, and how I loved people. But then there was also, you know, things surrounding like anxiety and sadness and numbness and, you know, feeling lost, feeling placeless. And so it became this record of light and shade. And I just wanted to reflect like the fact that that's what being a human is that balance.
I think lyrically the difference between Bruiseless, which kicks off the record, and then Ghost, which closes it, they're kind of polar opposites in a way. That's the way that I read it anyway, because the first line that opens up the album is so heavy, and it actually took me back when I first listened to it, headphones on, and properly just hearing what you were singing about. It was like, wow, okay, this is quite heavy from the off. And that, knowing you, I just know that that's not by accident, that's by design, that you'll have thought about, this is how I want to start the album. It is quite heavy, isn't it?
No, definitely. And I think that, I made the first song at the very end of the process. And also Ghost was one of the very first demos that I made before Collapse in Sunbeams even came out in 2020. And I knew that it would hit people. I feel like the first song and the first line of a record is really a statement of intent. But I think I see this record as like a journey towards healing that is full of ebbs and flows. And even within that song, it's like that first line, and then it's like the person I love is like feeding me cheese and I'm happy. And then it's like, I wish I was a child. Like there's this real, like, I don't know. It's like a tornado feeling.
I mean, that song is so interesting as well, Bruiseless, because it's short. It's like 90 seconds long or something. But the way that it starts, and I think it's all self-produced by you, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, I made it in my childhood bedroom. I can't remember what it was, why I decided to, but I have these weird like lightning bolts, these moments, almost like compulsive, where I'm like, I have to make something. And I just found that little synth and I was like, I think also I'd been listening to a lot of Kendrick's music, and it was actually quite recently, it was like when this new album came out, and I was thinking about like the simplicity of some of those beats, just like speaking over quite a simple sound bed, and just being really clear about what you mean.
So would you come up to places like this, I mean, you can listen to this now, there's nothing out there, and use this as a basis to listen to work in progress songs?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that when I'm making things, I can get quite, just like in the thick of it, quite obsessive, just because I care so much about it, listening to songs over and over and over in the studio, trying to chisel away at something that I actually just need space from. Nature for me is very much a place of like solitude, which doesn't feel lonely at all to me. Just like the sounds of it and the feeling, and feeling outside of yourself, feeling quite tiny, but in like a really nice way.
Yeah, those moments where you do feel small are sometimes the times when you kind of get a sense of purpose more than anywhere else, aren't they?
No, exactly. Well, because I think it just like reconfigures your perspective. And I think, a song like I'm Sorry, for example, where I was like so desperate to figure out, I was like, how do I bring the energy of like Tribe Called Quest with a sense of minimalism, and I want the drums sound like teardrop, like all the thoughts were just like a cloud above me, and it was making me so pissed off. And then I had to like come to a place like this completely by myself to just be like, okay, everything in its right place at its right time.
But this is why you're so good, because you do have 100 ideas at the same time going on musically. And it's just that thing, your reference points are so good. And I love the way that you drop such obvious things into the lyrics of the album. There will be My Bloody Valentine references, there will be film references, there will be Deftones references. I mean, it's like, it's a kind of archivist dream, your record, because you can just go through it and think like, right, this relates to this, and she was obviously watching this film when she did it.
Yeah.
There's a great thing about that I kind of think is missing from pop music in a way, of people just being like, this is me, these are my influences, I'm not scared about it.
For me, it's just like I don't know, I just love detail. Like for me, it's just so satisfying to listen to a song or read a piece of work and have all these little fragments that really like place the reader in a specific moment, even if they haven't lived it. It's like, hearing like You Touch My Leg, Juliette Binoche, like radiate, it's just like escalate, all of these specific things that really happened. And I feel like I want to keep them in because I don't want to be vague.
Yeah.
I'm talking about something that I really have seen.
But with this record, there are big changes. There are, I think it's 7 producers on it. It's recorded all over the world, LA, London, your bedroom. It's a real kind of mix and match album. But to listen to it, you wouldn't know that. It feels very complete. Was coming to LA a way of just opening up a new door and saying, let's experiment?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think I approached it as an adventure, and when I was thinking about collaborators for the new record, it was mainly just finding records that I loved and seeing who was in the credits and being like,
That
you,
guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people happen to live out here. And I think that shift in, like, geographical shift definitely kind of changed my perspective on how to make music. Like, I think before I was very rigid. Like, I was just very, like, stressed when I was making music just because I cared so much and wanted to hold it tight. But a lot of the people I worked with kind of allowed me to let go a little bit more and just to be a little bit more fluid with how I made things, which was really nice.
So what did you learn from Ramil, who's on like 2-3 tracks?
Ramil. Oh, my lovely friend. We both just kind of like bounce around a room when we're making music. Like, our minds are both just like so squirrely. We're just like having coffee and then driving around town, running back, like playing a synth for a second, then like having a chat. His dog's there just knocking things over. There's like such a frenetic energy to being with him. But I think what I learned in particular is that sense of play. Like, he truly loves music, like with the energy of like a child in the best way. And I think that's one of the key people that I think about when I think about being more fluid with how I approach things, because he was like, this needs to be fun, always. Like, this always needs to be fun. And having that in the back of my mind when we were making things was really special.
So did you go in and write together?
So the first time we met, we made Impurities.
Wow.
And he just pulled out this sample like, na, 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 na. And I was like, I like that. And wrote the song in maybe like 15, 20 minutes. And then we just went back to chatting. This is great.
How do you feel about Collapse now, looking back on that record?
I haven't thought about it in so long.
Do you find it easy to listen to?
No, I don't listen to it.
Why?
I don't listen to my music at all.
Not even the new one?
No. As in, when I'm like getting it mixed and stuff, of course.
But once it's
like,
kind of in its box
through.
and you've done the bow and
No.
you've sent it off to the world.
I'll listen to it when I have to like practice it for live, but not really.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's finished now. It's not mine anymore. I feel like when I've done everything that I can and like put as much love and energy into it as I can, then it's just, I give it away.
Yeah.
And I don't really try and think about it too much anymore.
Were you in a relationship for the whole of the making of this record?
Not all of it, no.
See, that's interesting because I was thinking about this earlier. If something as big and beautiful as that comes along halfway through a really precious body of art that you're creating, what does that do to the art and the direction that the art is going in? Does it completely flip it on its head? Because your brain is presumably being fireworks in your head and just, this is great.
Yeah, I think it does. It definitely does change things. And I think then you look back at the previous work through the lens of like being in love with a new person, and that does kind of just change the way that you see things. But definitely, I think like having like an anchor there and like having a person in the same way that like, whether it's a relationship or like a new friendship, like someone that really grounds you, I definitely think that it changes. For some reason, I feel like it allows me to experiment more and be more playful with things, because I almost have like the safety net of like another person who really like cares about me. I don't know if that's weird, but that's how I feel.
Have you explicitly written about Ash on this record?
Yeah, I have, and that's been hard. I feel like when it comes to my relationship, I like say all I want to say in the music.
Yeah.
And then I kind of have to like explain other details. But sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, I think it's worth it. You know, you have to celebrate the important things in your life. Like, I'm not going to not write about her because people are going to ask me questions.
Yeah. The Souvenir, I would like to talk about that because I loved both of those films. I didn't actually get the connection with the album title until reading about you talking about it.
Do you remember that bit?
Yeah, I went back actually and I re-remembered it. I'd forgotten it. I mean, the thing I love about particularly the first one is it's so grim. It's so dark and grey and you have this backdrop that bad stuff is happening. But you still, as the person watching it, I want to be in their gang and I want to hang out with them. And I kind of get that almost with your music as well, actually, where bad stuff can happen, but I want to be your friend.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as the listener, and I think
Yeah.
that's why people kind of connect with you. So it's interesting that you picked that reference.
Yeah, and I feel like all my favourite pieces of music or films have maybe like a dark undertone, but still like the characters always like have some substance. There's like a charm to them. There is some kind of lightness, some kind of like passion or silliness about them. And I think I just like painting the full picture. I feel like I've always kind of been drawn to melancholy, but
Yeah,
trying to have
me
a bit
too.
more balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a British thing, I think.
Yeah,
Because
for
we're faced with such melancholy weather.
Oh, yeah.
And we do
It-
melancholy so well.
It seeps in.
Yeah. I love that about your music. There's a track on the record called Devotion, which is the one that just, I smile. You know the bit I'm talking
Yeah,
about, like
yeah.
when it flips and when it just
Yeah.
goes into like 10th gear. That is maybe my favourite 5 seconds of music that
Really?
you have ever done. I mean, it's so perfect and unexpected on the first time you hear it as well.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it? Are you happy with the end result? Did it take much time to get there?
It took no time at all to get there. Because I was just with my friends. I was with Ramil in bed, and we just kind of made a little band for the day. And I'd always wanted to make a song like that, but I just didn't have the courage. And both of them were like, literally, why not? And I was like, you're right, actually. There's no reason why not. And I actually saw Deftones the night I finished it with Paul at the Kentish Town.
Yeah.
In front of like a couple thousand people with Chino just like ripping it in his little jeans. It was great. And yeah, I think those moments like happened so quickly and by accident, but felt so natural. Like there was such a sense of like organicness to the way that every song came about really on this album.
It sounds so you, because that last minute or whatever it is, where it goes properly heavy,
I love it.
I cannot wait to hear that
Mate.
live, because it's going to sound so good.
I was listening to Who Sees You by
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine, and it was just like those guitars, like those textures are just the things that like make me feel so elated. Like it just excites me. I love it. Like I have little moments where I'm like, listening to Burial, I'm like, I want to make a song like that. I'm not sure yet. But album 3, my little Burial collab.
You're a fan first and foremost.
Always,
Yeah.
always, I always will be.